The golden sun winked a cascade of blinding light upon the shades of tall grass and cornfields in the meadows. There were no houses for miles except for a small ranch house on top of a cedar hill. An old man sat on the bench of his porch. This old man was named Frank. He was a retired broker, feeble, well into the 80s, and his legs could no longer be trusted by a cane. For most of his life, he never smoked. After his retirement, however, he enjoyed sucking down on his wooden pipe and watched for nature. The screen door swung open. He had been meaning to fix the hinges. His wife, Agnes, stumbled out with a cane. Her wrist sent shocks and vibrations down on her cane. Frank looked up at her with her bundled gray hair, her creased face, and her polka-dotted nightgown that she never planned on changing because they weren't leaving the house that day. She was just as beautiful when he first met her. Her shuffling feet helped her join next to him on the bench. Not a word was spoken as each of them quietly admired the view of the endless cornfield and horizon. Frank just kept puckering his lips. He liked to play with his dentures in his mouth. It used to annoy Agnes, but she got used to it over the years. A wind settled in. The cornfield swayed like blankets tossed in the rain. It sent a chill down both Frank and Agnes' spine. Agnes finally craned her head to him. Frank noticed, but he was still entranced with the beauty of nature. She said to him, "Looks like rain is a-comin'." Frank just responded with, "Yeah, I reckon it is." "Let's go inside. Our favorite show is coming on." The two of them muscled up from the bench with their canes. Frank shifted his position to ease on his back. He massaged his lower pelvic region as he waddled through the screen door with his wife. They shuffled their feet to the living room couch. It was like the two of them ran a marathon as they leaned back in their seats and let their air sweep through their lungs. Frank bent over to find the remote on the nightstand. He knew exactly what channel their favorite show was on. Agnes was reaching in front from the side of the couch. By the time she got up, Frank smelled a familiar scent that he could not resist. It was tantalizing, soothing, and he wanted it so bad. Agnes said to him in her tired, timid voice, "Would you like to smoke this joint with me?" Frank turned to her with a peaked smile and replied, "You got weed?" Agnes told him, "This is some bomb-ass shit." "Let's tote that shit." As Frank and Agnes enjoyed their daily dose of marijuana, the television was staring at them. From the other side, in the heart of Washington, a middle-aged man, dressed conservatively in a suit more expensive than his life, watched them from the monitors. He was a balding goatee, very thin. He was seething with anger. Then he asked over the comm system, "Why is that old couple smoking weed? We didn't legalize it yet. Send in the troops. I want those two arrested." Out of nowhere, a SWAT team busted through their house. Frank and Agnes screamed as officials pinned them down and slapped handcuffs behind their backs. One of the officers said to them, "You're going to jail, Grandma." The government official paced around the room of monitors and telecommunications equipment as each screen from television sets computers to the small screens on cell phones monitored every citizen in America. He was languishing in power, and because of this, he enslaved himself to find intel on every breathing person. He said, "I refuse to allow my country to not uphold the law. As God is my witness, I will create fear in the general public." He noticed a hot couple making out in the backseat of the car. That the guy was well built, bald, and after she undid his pants, was well endowed. The girl was busty, model material, and had a smooth, naked body when she undressed herself. She said, "Oh, Tyler, give it to me." Tyler replied, "Oh, Shar, I love your naked body against mine." They were being monitored from their cell phone. The government official was watching everything. His anger split his lip and he ordered out, "Arrest them!" A team of cops opened their door and pulled the screaming couple out of the car. The government official laughed as he watched every monitor for every home. Then a female voice said, "Hey, why did you say I was busty?" I looked up at my computer monitor when I heard her say that. Practically, I flipped the screen of my manuscript over to Skype where I saw my ex-girlfriend Shar on the video monitor. A gorgeous girl with sharp, dark hair, a beautiful smile, and even in her late 30s she had a young face. She was communicating with me all the way from Hawaii. Some years ago she left me and remained in her hometown ever since. "My name is Tyler Moore. I'm 42 and just now trying to make something out of myself. One of the reasons Shar left me was because she felt I had an ambition. I had been lazy in the last few years to get this book done. Every now and then I would work on it, but sometimes life stuff got in the way. Unfortunately, part of my life stuff was more money problems, which got me in this mess with Shar in the first place. I answered her with, "This is going to be my magnum opus, Shar. Oh, and Busty just sounded better." "Oh, I see," she said. "Well, it's good so far. Thanks. Listen, just for motivational purposes, if this book's make it big, you think you can give me another chance?" "You don't need me to motivate you, Tyler. I'm not asking you for much. I just miss you, that's all." She smiled and said, "Oh, I miss you too, Tyler. How is everything going?" "Nothing much. I'm still trying to find Ramon a date." You still hang out with him?" "Oh, you should hear this. Why, just last week..."
One.
There we go. Yeah, it's working.
My two brothers and I visited our dear friend Ramon Sanford at the checkout line at the dollar store. It wasn't all that busy, and there was no music on the overhead speakers, which made the place more like a silent, solitary confinement than a workplace. Despite not being busy, there were at least two checkout lines open, with one being Ramon, and the other was some hot redhead 2 lanes next to him. She, like Ramon, was wearing one of those white aprons the store required you to wear, so we couldn't get an accurate depiction of her rack. She wasn't like anorexic thin or anything, with her puffed up cheeks, but her flowing curled red hair and her sweet smile gave off the impression that she was easy to talk to. We debated whether or not to take that lane instead, but we finally concluded to see Ramon so we could give him shit. Ramon was a Puerto Rican who wasn't easily identified. He was often mistaken for a black man. Ramon was what I described as a living cartoon character, with his goofy smile, goofy laugh, and all-around goofy personality incidentally inspired me to privately draw cartoon panels based off him. What set him apart from most people I knew was how determined he was to find a woman. And not just any woman, a beautiful woman to claim around his arm. I guess at this age, most people struggle to find the right significant other to spend the rest of their lives with. In Ramon's case, he was searching for the woman who was easy on the eyes across the breakfast table. Unfortunately for him, the women were searching for the same thing, and he just didn't get that. My brother Sam was the first to speak, and he said to Ramon, "Hey Ramon, you goofy fuck." "Hey, slice of pork." My brother Sam was the only brother out of the group with a full set of hair. It was believed he got that from Mom's side of the family. He was exactly my height, and he was the middle brother of 3. I was the youngest. My other brother Manny the man was the tallest, always sporting a leather jacket and a cocky demeanor. Although we had a family of smartasses, we always had each other's back. It was widely known that my brothers never approved of Shar, and any woman who spent so long not giving it up to their mate was dead to them. Then Ramon added, "It's not Ramon," he said with an accent. "It's Ramon!" "Yeah, whatever," said Sam. "Hey, who's that girl over there in the next lane?" "That's Amy. Why?" "Is she single?" "Who wants to know?" "That means yes. Then why the fuck haven't you asked her out yet? Better yet, why aren't you talking to her? You two are standing here bored and neither one of you has sparked a conversation yet." "We talked." "When? Before we got here? I swear to God, man, you have no game. Tell you what, give me your balls. You obviously don't use them. In fact, give me your dick also. It's attachable, right? I know some people who would actually use that dusty old thing. You could probably see the tumbleweeds rolling by." Then Ramon got mad, but he was still smiling and said, "You know what? I'm tired of you. I'm going to go over there and ask her out right now." Ramon started jotting down something on a piece of receipt paper. Manny asked, "What are you writing?" "My phone number." Sam asked, "You're going to give her your phone number? Why aren't you just asking for it?" "Let me handle this, okay? I got this." Sam and Manny backed off as Ramon bravely walked over to Amy. The 3 of us watched as Ramon said something out of ear to her, and she just smiled. He handed her his phone number, and she accepted it. Manny commented, "She accepted his phone number." Sam retorted, "Yeah, but will she give him hers?" We watched as they chatted and smirked, and the anticipation for my brothers was getting on the edge. Finally, Ramon walked back, and Manny announced, "Nope." Ramon walked back with a big smile on his face and said, "Now what, bitches?" Sam responded, "Good question. Now what? Is she gonna call you? Because I didn't see a number being given back to you." "She said she's gonna text me tonight. She said she likes a man who isn't intimidated by her looks." "Really?" said Sam. "Assuming that she texted you tonight and you go out on a date." Manny and I started laughing. Sam continued, I know. Let's humor this and say she is. Let's make a bet on how many dates Ramon will go on with this girl. I'll start. I'll just say 1. He's gonna fuck up after 1 date." Ramon responded defensively, "Fuck you, Sam. God, I hate you." "Manny, what would you say?" Manny replied solemnly, "I don't even see 1. I'm sorry. But Manny, you have to suspend disbelief. Assume that she will text him and then go on a date with him. How many dates you see them on?" Manny just concluded, "I have to say 1. I don't believe there will be one, but I will say one. Sam went to me and asked, Tyler, you've been quiet in all this. How many would you say? Well, I thought, I'm going to give Ramon the benefit of the doubt. So you think she's going to keep dating him? Asked Sam. No, I didn't say that. I'm going to give him 2 dates, and then he's going to fuck it up. Then Ramon responded, fuck you, Tyler, you fat piece of ham. I'm going to prove all 3 of you assholes wrong. I'll even invite her over, and she can tell you herself how many dates we've been on. Tell you what, said Sam, if you invite her over, let's say on your 3rd date, and she tells us all in her own words that this is your 3rd date, we all owe you $300. That's $100 each. I know Tyler doesn't have $100, so guess what? I have to fork over $200 to your sorry ass. I'm not worried, though, and you know why? I know I won't have to worry about losing $200 because your dumb ass is going to fuck this whole date up. God, I hate you, shouted Ramon. You got me revved up now. I can't wait to go on this date.
To everyone's surprise, including God, she sent him a text that night, and even more surprising, she was willing to go on a date with him. He took her out to some Coney Island place that was about as luxurious as you can get from an honest Ramon paycheck. To make matters more surprising was that he managed to get her in the backseat of his car, which is a milestone in Ramon's dating life. He had a satisfaction of massaging her back, and she even moaned that she was enjoying it. Ramon actually grew a pair and nibbled on the back of her neck like a rabid chipmunk. It only tickled her into a laugh. She stopped him and asked, Ramon, can we go in your apartment? It's a little uncomfortable back here. Why can't we just go to your place? I told you, my parents are home. My dad would shoot you if he saw you. I think your place would be the better bet. You live alone, right? At the time, Ramon was living with his ex-girlfriend, Spacey. Her real name was Stacy, but my brothers and I gave her a nickname. Ramon did the damage by living with her way too fast. They would always fight, generally about financing and jealousy. Currently, she had been living in a hotel and always calling him for money. Ramon had said that anytime she would call, it was always about her asking for money. It didn't even matter what situation he was in, she would always ask him for money. Ramon could be lying on his deathbed waiting to die from cancer, and she would call him. Elated to get a call from someone who cared, Ramon would pick up the phone and answer, hello? Then she would answer, hi Ramon, what's going on? Ramon would answer, I'm lying on my deathbed. I'm going to die any minute now. Then she would answer, oh, that's too bad. Hey, before you die, could you loan me $20? I have to buy my cat's food. Or even another scenario like his funeral where his dad would be given a eulogy. I can imagine his dad saying, Ramon was a different person. I still loved him anyway. I miss his goofy laugh. I miss all his failed dating attempts and having to listen to it. I miss him saying stupid things like slice of pork or milk. But most of all, I miss my son. I miss my dead retarded son. Then a phone rang, and everyone in the audience would look around their pews to find out whose phone was ringing. Ramon's dad would get mad and say, who brought their phone to my son's funeral? Speak up. This is a very serious moment. Then he realized that it wasn't the people present with the ringing phone, but instead the sound came from one of the pockets in dead Ramon's suit. He fiddled with the pocket and pulled out a phone, and on the caller ID it said Spacey. He answered the phone and said, hello, this is Ramon's dad. Spacey answered, hi, is Ramon there? Ramon's dad responded, I'm sorry. He started crying and said, Ramon's dead. I'm at my dead son's funeral right now. Oh, that sucks. Hey, you know if he left me $20? He said he was going to, but I guess he died on me. It might be in one of his dead pockets. Ramon's dad just stood there flabbergasted with the phone surgically in his ear. He then let out the words, yeah, sure, I'll check for you. You heartless bitch! So at the time, Spacey was still living there. Ramon invited her in an apartment and feared that she would be there. Spacey would get jealous if Ramon brought home any girls to the point where she would actually fight them. Surprisingly, during these times, Ramon was able to bring home girls. Since Spacey left, Ramon was left in a dry spell. The door opened to his kitchen, and the first one to greet them was Ramon's dog Milo. He was one of the black-spotted Jack Russell dogs who loved to play and smile a lot. Amy was elated to see him and bent over to pet him. Oh, your dog is so cute, she said. Wait, what's this in his mouth? Bad dog, shouted Ramon. She managed to pull out whatever was in Milo's mouth and asked, is this a strap-on? I don't think so. Yes, it is a strap-on. Why would you have one in your house? I thought you lived alone. That's probably my ex-girlfriend Spacey's. We used to live together. She must have left it here. She peered at it for several seconds before glancing up at a gulping Ramon and grinned devilishly. "Oh, I just had an idea," she said. "What?" She stood up to face him with his wicked grin on her face. She asked, "How about if I fuck you with this strap on?" "Yeah, right. How about if I fuck you with this strap on, huh?" "Please," she begged. "I've always wanted to fuck a guy with a strap on." It was in that moment where Ramon flashed back at Sam proposing that $300 he so desperately needed. He then whined, "We have to." Sure enough, Ramon was flat on his stomach, and Amy, who was nice enough to at least be in her bra and panties, was on top of him. Unfortunately for the eyes, Ramon was naked, and she was having a ball with her new strap on. She leaned over, giving Ramon a woody with the press of her bra, and handed him one of those squeaky dog bone toys to his mouth. She said to him, "Bite on this." Ramon bit it, and a loud squeak flopped the ears of his dog. His butt tightened when the strap-on slipped in the hole. His squeak toy drove the dog nuts as she began pounding him from the back. Ramon just laughed, but was really fending off the pain. He was trying desperately to keep this date and to prove everyone wrong. "Down, Milo," Ramon said in a muffled voice. The dog was trying to leap at him on the bed. "Go away, Milo." The dog just wasn't listening. Amy was making sex noises in the back and was still pumping away with the strap on. Ramon asked in his muffled voice, "Can I have sex with you now?" "No," she said. "I think I'm going to come." "No, don't come yet." That was when she walked in the door. Amy stopped pumping, and Ramon letting off that one last squeak of the toy before the dog nabbed it from his mouth, looked up and saw Spacey standing there at the door with eyes white as a freight train. She shouted, "What the fuck is this?" Amy replied, "I'm so sorry. He told me he lived alone." "She's not my girlfriend," shouted Ramon. Amy gathered her clothes, and Spacey stepped out of the way for her to run out. Ramon quickly put back on his pants without his underwear and fell off the bed. Amy was just about to leave the apartment until Ramon caught up to her. "Wait, don't go," he said. "She can just stay in another room." "Sorry, Ramon. Thank you for letting me live my fantasy and all, but I really have to go." "Are we going to have a second date?" She thought about it and said, "I don't know. You're nice and all. Please, I really need that $300. $300? Did you make some sort of bet?" Ramon stopped and realized he said something stupid. "You're an asshole. Fuck you and have a nice night with your girlfriend." She bolted out the door and Ramon shouted, "Wait! Don't go! God, I hate my life!" "Oh, that Ramon," said Char, shaking her head. By pure coincidence, Sam texted me about Ramon, and I stared at it for a good solid 5 seconds. Char asked, "What is it?" I told her, "It's from my brother. They're taking Ramon to the hospital. They want me to go with them."
Chapter 4. We had to pass one of those automatic revolving doors. It was like an obstacle course because it would just keep going around in circles, and just when the opportune time came, we would run right in and follow the doors so we wouldn't get pushed behind us. Ramon went ahead and filled out the paperwork at the receptionist's desk. We figured since he was having abdominal pains that they would let him right in. He just went in and sat down in the waiting room. Sam asked, "Well?" They told me I had to wait. Manny and Sam looked at each other, and Manny announced, "Let's go eat." Sam said, "Yeah, we gotta go meet our dad." "Have fun, Ramon." Ramon said, "Wait, bring me something." Sam pointed and said, "See that vending machine? Fuck you, bitch dog." My dad had already saved us a table at the Coney Island. Immediately, Sam noticed the waitress, Elena, who knew us by name. She was a petite girl with dark, black hair and a flirtatious smile. She passed by us and said with a smile, "Hey, boys," and walked behind the counter. The three of us looked at her in awe, and Sam nudged me and said, "You should ask her out on a date." "That's okay." "You're sounding like Ramon. I'm sure she would say yes." "I'm sure she would, too." My dad invited us to the table. I sat next to my dad with my brothers across from me. Spread in front of him was neatly stacked papers with a black stamp on the cover sheet. It was the one that caught our eye at the table. That and the fact that my dad was looking more gray and balder than the last time we saw him. He informed us, "I'm going to cut the chase and just get this over with. In front of me is my will. I'm splitting $16,000 between the three of you. I'm also setting $16,000 for John. Now, I've been thinking long and hard about this, and I have to decide on a beneficiary." "Me," raised Ramon. "Me," Manny raised his hand. Then my dad said, "And I decided it should be John." "The stepbrother?" asked Manny. "The richest son? May I ask why?" "The reason why is that he had experience in this kind of thing with his own father. And I know you kids would be very distraught after my death. probably wouldn't have much experience with handling the money and whatnot. So I figured having John handle this kind of thing is the right decision. Sam tried to say something, but Manny interrupted immediately and said, "You know what's going to happen? I'm sorry, I'm just going to be blunt about this, but I don't see us seeing a dime in this. Not that I feel that money is important in all this, okay, but because I think I speak for the rest of the brothers that my dad is more important than money." Sam and I agreed. However, it's the principle of the matter. I'm going to be honest. I don't trust him or your wife, for that matter. I'm sorry. I'm just being honest in all this. "I respect that," said my dad. "And the fact that we don't get invited to family functions, I see you take vacations even with some people in your side of the family. We don't get an invite. In fact, we have a stepbrother and we don't even have remote contact with him. Now, here we are, and you want to make someone we don't know a beneficiary on your will? You see where we're going with this?" And believe me, I thought about that too, but hear me out. John has invited all of you to his daughter's birthday party. Manny laughed. "Oh, so now he's inviting us to stuff." This was before I put him as a beneficiary. His wife felt it would be best to get to know the family. It's a formal party, and I would even consider you all to bring a date if you can. But they would very much like to get to know you guys and start on a clean slate. Sam and Manny looked at each other as if asking each other through telepathy if they should accept this offer. My dad didn't give them too much time to talk and said, "Just think about it. You don't have to come up with a decision right away." "I'm in," said Manny. "I'm in too," said Sam. Manny looked at me. "Tyler, are you in?" "Yeah," I said. "You know this means we have to find you a date, right?" informed Sam. Then I said, "I can find my own dates, thank you very much." Finally, my dad said, "Now that's settled. I have one more thing to address." We got quiet. "As you know, my brothers and I cannot take over your grandpa's house. As of next week, it's going up for sale. I highly suggest coming out to Ohio and picking up whatever it is that you want before we auction it for sale." "Why can't John take it?" asked Manny. "He doesn't want it," said my dad. Our waitress finally came, no doubt knowing the importance of the meeting was dwindling down, and asked, "Hi, boys, can I start you off with something to drink?" Sam said, "Hey, Elena, could you be my brother's date to a formal party?" I immediately got nervous and said, "Oh, please don't listen to my brother." My dad was paying the bill when the three of us opened the glass doors to the inviting cool air. Manny was picking his teeth with a complimentary toothpick from the jar. Sam and I enjoyed watching our cold breath exhaling out. Sam turned to me and said, "You know she would have gone with you, right?" "I already have somebody." Before Sam asked anything, Manny interrupted and said, "That's some real bullshit right there. You know what's going to happen, right?" "Just like you said," Sam agreed. Manny looked off and said, "We aren't going to see a dime of that money." Our dad walked out the glass doors with us and comforted his hand in the coat pockets from the cold. He asked us, "So, what's your plans today?" Sam asked Manny, "Yeah, aren't we forgetting something?" Manny asked, "Did I leave the oven on?" Sam asked, "Did I forget to lock the door?" I asked, "I think I forgot my wallet." Then Sam said, "Oh, wait." The three of us announced in unison, "Ramon!" We didn't want to, but we had to pick up Ramon from the hospital. He was back in the waiting room watching some talk show we never heard of on the mounted TV. We figured he was waiting for a long time just by the way he immediately stood up when he saw us. "Well?" "Oh, it's nothing," replied Ramon. "What do you mean it's nothing?" asked Sam. "It had to be something that we rushed all the way here for." "Oh, I just got hepatitis is all." "Hepatitis?" they said at once. The drive home had to be the fastest Sam has ever drove. I was stuck in the back seat with the diseased Ramon, as Sam and Manny just made matters worse with their mouth. Truth be told, I was feeling bad for Ramon, but picking on him during this endeavor helped us forget the meeting with our dad earlier. "Drive fast, Sam," shouted Manny. "I am. I don't want hepatitis in my back seat." "Hey, I'm stuck back here with him," I shouted. "Come on, you guys. I just got it from a toilet seat. Besides, it's only Hep A. If it was hepatitis C, I would understand." "Good," said Sam. "Then you'll understand that we have to disinfect this car when we kick your ass out." "Fuck you, Sam." "No, someone fucked you and probably gave you hepatitis." "I told you it's from toilet seats. Here we go. I got hepatitis and I want to sit on public toilet seats. God, I hate people." Manny murmured to Sam, "Oh, it had to be a toilet seat. You honestly believe someone fucked him?" "You got a point." "Fuck both of you. God, I hate you." By the time we reached Ramon's apartment, I had the pleasure of literally kicking him out with the heel of my foot. Ramon went rolling onto the concrete as Sam told him to get the fuck out. He then drove off with tires squealing. I thought I heard Ramon laughing.
Chapter 5. Sam was finishing disinfecting the back seat with a spray bottle and a washcloth when Manny walked up behind him. Manny asked, "You ready?" "Yeah, I think I got all of it. I'll tell you what, he ain't riding in my car again." Touche. The three of us packed the car and drove off into the adventure of Michigan traffic. Michigan drivers were notorious for being assholes. I think Sam nearly got into 2 accidents just by someone cutting them off, yet the other drivers was the one cursing and saluting the middle finger at him. Not only that, but the people there were rude, as he liked to honk at him because he was going the speed limit. No wonder cops liked writing up tickets. Driving off into Expressway wasn't much better. The rough terrain was enough to think we might have been driving on a flat tire. Sam assured it was just a road, and he was right. After an hour, Manny asked, "Are we in Ohio yet?" She smiled and said, "Oh, you'll know." Sam was right again. That rough terrain suddenly became smooth, and we looked back at the huge billboard and said, "Welcome to Ohio." After some scenery of some farmland and cornfields, we had an opposite take of the people compared to Michigan. Instead of yelling at us, they waved to us from their cars as if they knew us. Panhandlers smiled and waved as if welcoming us into their town. It was like everything became surreal. We made it into the small town of Leroux without much hassle, and there were cars already parked around our grandpa's house. A gathering of people loitered outside my grandpa's house we couldn't recognize, and we started to wonder if our dad was anywhere around. 3 of us looked bewildered as we stepped foot on the wooden porch, and some guy bolted out the door with a unique painting with no regards if we wanted it or not. We walked in the house and immediately spotted our dad helping someone separate the table by the window. He had his back turned, so we didn't catch the expression of disappointment in any of our faces. Manny said, "Hey, Dad." Our dad turned around and exclaimed, "Hey, you made it." "Yeah," said Sam. "What's with all these people taking things out already?" "That's my wife's family. They got here just before you did. I guess they got first dibs." We never met his wife's family before this day and knew nothing about them. However, our first impression of them wasn't a good one. Considering his wife married him mainly for financial support, it wouldn't surprise us that the rest of the family was just as money-grubbing as she was. From the looks of them, we could be right. "Geez, Dad," said Sam, I don't know. Shouldn't immediate family come first?" "These are our family, son. We never met this family before." "I understand that, but look, there's plenty of stuff left over. Have a good look around." He has a ton of neat stuff upstairs. The floor creaked with every step from the stairs to the top floor. Fortunately, it was quiet up there, and it appeared no one was around. The room to my right was my grandma's old room. She passed away when I was younger. I gently creaked open the door, and the only neat stuff I saw was a bed and a mirror. Still, I took a gander inside the room and recollected seeing my grandma one last time. I remember just before she died, she was laying on that bed, and I approached her like a lost child. She wanted me to come close. She took me by the arm and said to me in a timid old lady's voice, "I want you to promise me something. When you get older, please take care of this house. This house has been in the family for generations. I don't want it to exchange hands to someone else. Become someone and make sure this house stays within the family. Will you promise me?" My little self replied, "Yes, Grandma." My flashback evaporated when the closet door flew open and coat hangers danced back and forth. I slowly edged myself out and said to it, all right, I'm leaving." I raced back downstairs and saw my dad watch the table he helped take apart be carried by 2 people out the door. He precariously waved goodbye when I approached him from behind. I shouted, "Dad!" My dad turned to me and asked, "What's wrong?" "You can't sell this house. Don't you remember? Grandma wanted it to stay in the family." "I know, son, but none of us can afford the upkeep of this place. There's too much money to get into this place, and I'm afraid we don't have the finances for that kind of thing." "Then give me some time then. My agent wants to work real hard on his book. I'm almost done with it. Just let me finish this book, and once my agent takes care of it, maybe we can—" "Son, that's for the banks to decide now. Unless you can purchase the house, I'm afraid it will go to some other family now. I'm sorry." I was pretty much moping in the back seat on the way back. My brother spent the better half of the trip complaining about how much bullshit it was that the other family got all the good stuff before them. It seemed every time we turned around, our dad just kept pissing us off. Then I said to them, "I'm going to get that house back." Sam responded caustically, "Well, you better write that book really fast then." I just can't believe Grandma's dying wish was to keep that house in the family, and nobody was willing to fulfill that wish. "Uh-oh," said Manny. "What?" asked Sam. "Welcome to Michigan." We hit rough terrain as we passed that billboard. I continued to speak even though the rough bump of the tires hitting the pavement drowned out my voice. I said, I'm going to get that house back. I'll spend all weekend working on it if I have to. Look at this, said Manny as he looked up at his cell phone. Tornado warning is in effect. Sam asked excitedly, Really? When? Tomorrow. I guess it's a big one. Then we all exclaimed, Yes!
I must admit, hearing the boom of thunder was the first step to an erection. It was at the pharmacy, which sucks because I'd rather be at home enjoying it than being stuck at work. What made it even better was that there was a tornado warning issued for that area, and that once again made it worse because I would rather die at home. There were hardly any windows in the pharmacy, or at least not in the area they put me in. What we got instead were white walls and tiled floors that better suited for a mental institute. We would have to walk a good 20 feet in the oppressive space of medicated racks if we wanted the luxury of a window. What I saw captivated me because the rain came down like a monsoon and the trees danced violently with the angry winds. If I was at home, I would be staring for hours. Unfortunately, that wasn't about to happen. My good pharmacist friend Cornelius Frankowski came up from behind. He never had anything important to say. He was on this mission to get me over Shar and my introversion and be with a woman. This time was no different. He said to me, I caught that Brittany chick staring at you when you were walking near the window. You should go over there and talk to her. I never noticed this before, but Cornelius looked like a weasel with slicked back dark hair. I'm jealous myself because I have none. Cornelius always labeled himself as fat, but I like to think of him as big-boned. If he worked out, he'd probably have a good build, but he probably figured why should he? He was married with 2 kids, and his wife definitely had him on a leash. Very seldom we would hang out at the local independent wrestling joints, provided that his wife authorized him permission. Now, I don't know why he was pushing for me to ask this Brittany chick on a date. She was widely considered to be the hottest girl at the pharmacy. She was tall, slender, noticeable luscious curves, and long blonde hair that I swore I saw in a modeling magazine when I was 10. This girl was way out of my league, and most of the time she walked with her nose in the air as if avoiding male contact at all. I wasn't going to bother her with a reply, but to get him off my back, I said, I don't even know what to say to her. Invite her on John's boat. Seriously, tell her there's an event coming up on John's boat and she should go. Then, check this out. We get her drunk, push her to in one of those private rooms. Oh, man, that's so wrong. Yeah, but think about it. That would be the hottest chick you would ever lay. Char was hot. No, dude, she can't be as hot as that. It was in that moment when we looked that she flung her hair back. It was like in those movies where you'd see the hot girl and in slow motion you watch as she twirled her hair. The slow motion didn't happen, of course, but I like to think it did. Look, Cornelius exclaimed. I think she looked over at you. I think she was looking towards the door. I'm serious. Now is your chance. Go talk to her. I was pushed forward like a rag doll. Somehow this motion caught her because I didn't think she would say anything. Sometimes she would just avoid me or just not saying anything at all when I spoke to her. Then, like an idiot, Cornelius loudly whispered, Talk about the weather! I say idiots because I think she heard him say that. Then I said the most cliched line you can give anyone when you can't think of anything to say. I asked, So, how about that weather? What happened next surprised me. Cornelius, a few co-workers, the ghosts that walked the pharmacy, the angels in heaven, and even God himself nearly choked on his martini when she actually said to me, I know! I love storms! It wasn't much, but she was actually inviting a conversation. The funny thing about conversations were they were like games. One person speaks, the other engages a sentence or two back, then in hopes to follow up with another conversation, and in this case, I just hoped this conversation would keep going without it feeling too awkward on her part. Then, as casually as I could, I replied, Me too, I was just thinking how I would rather be at home enjoying it than being stuck here. Did this spark up a response? There was a couple brief seconds for him to ponder, and then she replied with, I hate it here too. I have to drive all the way from Howell to get here. Really? That's a long drive. Oh no, I was running out of things to say. I couldn't come up with something to follow up with. She was bound to get awkward in this conversation. I could almost feel the heat of sweat coming from the dome off my bald head. Then a loud boom of thunder jumped both of us. It felt like it shook the whole pharmacy. To my relief, it saved the conversation. Wow, I said, that shook the whole pharmacy. We were both about to share our surprise with that massive grin on our face when my arch nemesis, J.R. Thompson, broke up the conversation. He said, Why are you talking to this slacker over here? And then he said to me, "Don't you have some work to get done?" I always thought JR looked like an old fisherman. He sported a gray, oval-shaped beard around his chin that matched the color gray of hair ringing around his fucking head. Now, I'm not sure if it's just an act, but he always seemed in a bad mood everywhere he went. Most of the time, he came off as a grouchy old man, unless some hot young girl happened to be talking to him. Then all those muscles he uses for a smile would start to hurt. It's funny because his wife worked with him, and she never seemed to mind his flirtatious ways with the young women. Cornelius tried to coach me into breaking up her and JR's conversation, which consisted of smiles, nodding, and talking. Maybe I was just being a pussy, but I felt it was too late. My dumbass just stood there and watched as neither of those two acknowledged me standing there like a psychotic watcher. All I needed was a tree next to me and I'd be all set. Then our secretary, Charnette, an obese black woman, ran into the pharmacy with arms waving, yelling, "A tornado is heading this way!" And then, like out of nowhere, she just flew up like dragging a mouse across the computer screen. She was gone off the roof in an instant. Suddenly that vibrating noise we heard earlier was all around us, with winds violently shaking the building, and the warning sound of a train was gradually getting closer and closer. Maybe I was just dumbfounded for a few minutes, but it just registered that the ceiling had a few openings to the mucus green sky. I could feel the strong winds circulating from the crevices, almost whirling around me as I felt my scrubs weigh me on down to the floor. He had to shout because the winds were getting really loud at this point, and mostly because they were already circulating around the pharmacy. He yelled, "Hurry up! We gotta take shelter!" "Where?" I yelled back. "Anywhere!" The three ran down the aisle of the medication racks that were rolling back and forth with the wind. We heard a concussive blast from the ceiling above that startled Brittany into a sharp yelp. I looked up and noticed more pieces of the ceiling being taken away with some blurry images of the sky. "The tornado's right above us!" yelled JR. Those racks just kept getting in the way. One slid past with us full well knowing it was going to slide back and probably hit us. We kept moving along, each competing in keeping Brittany as safe as possible. What made matters worse was that the electricity was going on and off, and spots of darkness affecting our vision made dangerous rock dodging worse than it already was. The three of us were holding hands, with Brittany in the middle, so I didn't have to touch JR's hand. At some points, the periods of darkness were a little longer, which caught our breath because if the darkness didn't come back, we were going to be in big trouble. I could hear the sound of a train getting deafeningly loud, and even I knew that we had mere seconds before all hell broke loose. One of the racks was spinning out of control. I grabbed Brittany close to me as we maneuvered out of the way and nearly pushed with the rack to the other side. JR waited for us at the other side and pulled us out before being spun around again. At that point, it was getting more chaotic. A rack was closing in on us like a wall about to smash us into another rack. JR pulled us away, seeing an opening between two racks that led to an aisle free of the mess. I managed to pull Brittany through just in time before the racks had a chance to close in and smash us. By the time we reached the aisle over, she looked over at me. At first, I didn't know what it was until I realized from her looking down that I was holding her hand. Quickly in embarrassment, I let go. Then we heard something in addition to the wind that sounded like decking. Then we heard something in addition to the wind, which sounded like decking playing cards. Neither of us wanted to, but we turned around anyway to see the tiles from the floor rise up in a pattern that was coming towards us. Brittany and I briefly wide-eyed each other and took off running just behind in a towel with JR. The tiles rose closer and closer, and we felt the suction of the wind pulling us back. Up ahead, I saw the mounted table that I frequently use every day. Never thought I would ever rely on that as our safety measure. Brittany was falling back, so I took her by the wrist and instructed everyone to jump! And the three of us dove right on the tabletop and held on for our lives. The suction of the wind sent us all on an angle and cluttered our feet together in waving bumps. Through all the deafening chaos of wind and trains, I heard the drivers banging on the door. I had forgotten that they didn't have access out of the driver's area and they were trapped like prisoners in there. Fortunately, it was too late for them, as I heard the sound of shattering glass and those desperate hands on the window pane sucked back like they were sent through a jet engine. Then I heard the spark of bad electrical wiring. The printers we used to print our labels danced in the wind over each other and were pulling to our general direction. I tried to warn the others, but the strong currents of winds overpowered my voice. One flew my general direction and I dodged, releasing one hand and grabbed quickly back for comfort. Another flew at Brittany, and I used my quick reflexes out of nowhere to hit it away from her as it passed by. Then the tabletop slid. It was coming loose. I had forgotten that the tabletop was never sturdy since it was put back on. We may be in some big trouble. Desperately, I tried to attach my hands to something stable, so so I could put pressure on the tabletop to the actual table. Then I quickly realized that it didn't work because the tabletop slid off to the crevice in the ceiling and Brittany flew back. I reached out, grabbed her hand, but found myself flying off only to be grabbed by JR, who held on. I shouted to him, "Thanks for saving me," to which he replied, "I wasn't saving you." This brought a smile to her face again. That smile quickly vanished when everything suddenly went still. Then we found ourselves falling into the opening of the table. It hurt like hell, but it was even worse when we looked up. Falling debris fell on the table, and we found ourselves trapped in pitch darkness. I think texting Cornelius on my cell worked because the firefighters muscled off the debris to get us out of the table. One of them commented, "What, no threesome?" Which was what I was thinking. A firefighter carried me off from the debris, and I was shocked to find that the entire building collapsed. He asked me repeatedly if I wanted a hospital, and I repeatedly declined. Cornelius waited for me at the other end and asked the usual question if I was all right. I nodded and looked off to see Brittany in JR's arms. I felt something at the pit of my stomach. I saved her life a countless number of times, and I still wasn't acknowledged. Watching her reminded me of why I shunned off dating in the first place. "Don't worry about it," assured Cornelius. "I saved her," I told him. "I'm sure she knows that." "Yeah, I don't think so." A black SUV pulled up, and some of the coworkers had to dodge out of the way. It was our boss, John Catella. With his transitional glasses styling out of the vehicle, I can recognize that receding hairline anywhere. Word around the pharmacy was that he never cracked a smile, and I haven't once seen that happen. He looked young, thin, with a little meat around the edges, and noticeable gray spotting with his brown hair. From the looks of it, he must have gotten back from one of those facilities, because he was wearing his brown hooded coat he always walked out with. "All right, everyone," yelled out our fearless leader, who I was sure to be the voice that would calm all these hysterical people down. "You know the drill. We need to meet up at the Kresge's parking lot." "With what car?" asked Tim,
With what car?
a burly black guy that worked in the IV department. He pointed out the flooded parking lot of cars turned over on their backs. John analyzed. "I see a car that hasn't been tampered with. Whose vehicle is that? We can use it as transportation." "Somebody tell me whose car that is." "Are you insane?" asked Tim. "We have all been in some trauma. The last thing we want is to go somewhere to get sucked in some tornado. Have some mercy." "Look, people, I know you've been through a very traumatic ordeal, but we still have a job to withhold. We need to shake off the nerves and get back to work. I know if I was in that building, I'd be scared too. The best thing for you right now is to think to yourself, I am alive right now. I'm alive. Just repeat that to yourself. Once you realize that you're alive, shake those unnecessary nerves off and start thinking about what's best for Grandma. Grandma needs you right now. On my watch, you're still on company payroll." Some woman spoke out who worked in some department I never go to and shouted, "I ain't going nowhere. I have a family to check on. As far as I know, my baby is probably sucked up in that tornado." John maliciously responded, "Then make another one. If your family's is dead, then there's nothing that can be done about it. You might as well finish out the day's service in Grandma." The woman replied, "I'm going home." Then John held up his wrist with no watch and said, "Is it time for you to go home yet? I don't think so. Fen, if you decide to go home, that's the point. Now let's find out who owns that vehicle, get to that parking lot. I promise you, once we finish out the day, there's pizza for everyone." "A pizza party?" Cornelius whispered to me. "You know whose cars that is?" Then I regretted my response of, "Yeah, that's mine."
It was always a rare occasion when the four of us attend one of the local wrestling shows. I was joined with Cornelius, our Spanish friend Javi El Montiel, and our Puerto Rican friend Ramon Sanford. Cornelius was driving with me in the passenger seat with poor Javi stuck with Ramon in the back. Javi was a family man, but don't ask me how many kids he had because I was never briefed on that. The man always looked like a comedian to me. He had a nice build to him, not fat, just a burly frame to his body. His black rimmed glasses just made his jokes even funnier. I swear some of the stuff this man says just didn't look like it would come out of his mouth. Where Javi looked like a comedian, Ramon looked like a living cartoon character and acted like one too. Ramon only had 4 things on his mind: wrestling, sex, video games, and sex. He was desperate for a woman, but it always seemed like he was more desperate to get laid than a long-lasting relationship. Lately, he's been working out to impress the ladies and considers himself to be a good-looking guy. This attribute is self-proclaimed, as I yet to hear a woman say this. Granted, he did have a nice build to him, and that big belly of his tucked very well under his shirt. If there was ever an attribute that everyone could agree about him regarding him, was that he had a goofy smile, almost childlike. In fact, he was goofy all around. Javi was having us sample his food for his upcoming restaurant on the way to the show. He saved the best for last, and it was in one of those plastic containers. We didn't have to question what it was. He shouted it for us. Churros! Churros, for those that don't know, are sugary pasties. Think small donut sticks and you're in the right ballpark. Churros was essentially the symbol of our friendship. It's like our battle cry. I had no idea why. Churros, we all yelled. Don't eat all of them, cowpod, said Ramon, who only felt the need to point out my weight. Seriously, I think it made him feel better to point out my flaws and make himself look good. Of course, I had to defend myself. I shouted back, "Shut up, you human piece of turd." It just made him unleash his goofy laugh. Cornelius broke it up by changing the subject. He asked, "Hey Ramon, you ready for all those divas?" "Yeah, boy. Scarlet. Ooh, baby. I'll get her on top of me and show me that nice belly. I love a woman with a nice belly, boy." Javi commented, "Somebody needs to get this guy laid." "Ooh, getting laid." "What the fuck is wrong with this guy?" laughed Javi. Then Ramon got obnoxious and cried out, "Show us your titties. Give me some milk." Ramon was saying milk, but in the most obnoxious way possible. Somehow this was his way of scoring a woman. Then Cornelius chimed in, "All right, Ramon, I'll tell you what. I'm sure there are going to be some hot chicks at the show. Why don't we score some numbers for you?" "Ooh, baby," replied Ramon. Apparently, relying on Ramon to talk to a woman on his own was completely out of the question. We were outside enjoying a cigarette when an attractive woman asked him for a cigarette, talked to all of us, and walked off, and he didn't say a word. Then, to make matters worse, he was wishing he did. Honestly, if I would have known that he liked her, I would have been more persistent in having her talk to him. As it became apparent, we were going to score some phone numbers for him ourselves. We were at a seedy bar called the Ritz, located just across the street from some power plant. The staff rounded us up in this cramped room while the patrons were busy setting up the ring. We came about an hour early to get some good seats. After a few minutes of waiting and strangers awkwardly eyeing over to us, Cornelius got the idea to wait at the bar. It was a straight walk from the ticket booth. I was scoping out the scene, and from the looks of it, the bartender, though slim and attractive, she was a living canvas of tattoos noticeably on her upper chest and arms. She just didn't strike me as a Ramon type. Of course, Cornelius and Javi sat next to each other to discuss their restaurant plans. After all, Cornelius was the silent partner. I was stuck next to Ramon, who awaited me with a barrage of insults only a toddler would find humorous. "Hey, slippery frog," he said to me. Then he repeated himself with a goofy laugh of "aha!" like what he said had to be shared at a comedy act. It was in that moment that I didn't pay any more attention to him. Instead, I was eyeing this waitress with the largest and perkiest breast I've seen. Oh, and she was pretty attractive to boot. Ramon had this notion that he was a good-looking guy. Therefore, he could only settle for girls that looked noble around his arm. The two of us shared a mutual friendship with a very attractive model friend that repeated time and time again that he could have slept with her. The story went like this. She asked him to come over to fix her car one day. And naturally, since a hot model blonde invited him over for anything, he was right over. He fixed the car and she made him lunch. The kicker was that she didn't want him to leave, but he had to go somewhere. I forget where. It was probably to go home and beat off or something. He swore up and down that if he would have stayed that he would have had sex with her. Since then his standards went a little higher. My guess was she was being nice and just enjoyed his company. Ramon always had sex on the brain, so at least he had something to jerk off to every night. Ramon spotted the same waitress and commented, "Look at those watermelons. I would suck on those, boy, like deep sea diving. Give me some milk." During his intellectual sentence, I was writing his phone number down on a napkin. I was just about to get up to go give it to her when he stopped me. "Where are you going?" "I'm going to give her your number." "Come on, Tyler, no. How are you going to ever be with a woman if you're scared all the time?" "I will, just not now." "Well, when will it ever be now? Swear to God, if we leave here today, you don't at least make an attempt with that waitress over there, you're going to go home and jerk off over her and regret not speaking to her. I bet you. Why don't you go talk to her then? She won't want you because you're too fat." Then he followed with his goofy laugh. I watched that waitress chest out her breast to an old drunk guy. I couldn't see how I would be much different. Then he coerced, "Come on, cow. You think you're so confident? Fine, I will." This prompted Ramon to say to the others, "Hey guys, the cow is going to try to get that waitress's number over there. Callie McFatpants thinks he can get a woman." Cornelius responded, "Come on, Tyler, I got $50 riding on you." Javi added, "Churros." Then Ramon just made his goofy laugh, and that dim-witted look on that dim-witted face reminded me of a happy puppy. I'm being serious. That wide-open grin and the gloss in his eyes reminded me of a cross between a toddler and a puppy wagging its tail. Still, I took a deep breath and my jelly legs managed to carry over almost to the halfway point around the bar. I looked back and that stupid grin was still on his face. Ramon shouted out, "You scared, cow?" It was enough to agitate me to walk even further. I wasn't even at eye level with her and she turned to face me. I had a pending view of her face. It was beautiful, but a little older up close. It wasn't evident further back, but she had noticeably chubby baby cheeks. It was still sexy, like the kind of cheeks you would like to suck on. Briefly, I had a look at her pretty hazel eyes, but I always had trouble making eye contact with anyone. Her lips had a little bulge on her, but even Ramon had to admit that there was nothing wrong with a little meat on a woman. She asked me, "Can I get you something?" At this point, I was at a loss for words. Had I lost my game? I just said the first nonsense that came to mind, which was, "Hi, I was wondering if you'd ever consider acting." She laughed. "What? Why, are you a movie producer?" "I make independent films," I lied. "I was just wondering if you could act with my buddy over there." I pointed out Ramon, who looked in awe with Cornelius and Javi. To my surprise, she smiled and waved at them, and they all waved back in unison. Then she asked something that never even crossed my mind. She asked me, "Are you making a porn?" Immediately I chimed in, No, not at all. Well, unless you wanted to be." "Seriously, I would love to be in a porn." "Really?" "I love flashing my breasts. Seriously, look at them." She started hugging them and rubbing them closer to her chin. I could see the guy's mouth watering from my peripheral vision. "Are you yanking my crank?" "Not at all. I actually fuck like a porn star in bed. Guys love it. They even tell me I should be in a porn. It's just that..." "What?" "It's just... Does it have to be with him?" She pointed out Ramon, who looked like he was playing with himself under the counter. "Why? What's wrong with him? I mean..." Then a familiar face interrupted our conversation. She asked, "Tyler?" And it was a blast from the past. It was Megan. Looking back, I always thought of Megan as being the most beautiful woman I've ever known. She is still just as petite as she was back then. Her hair long, black braided hair matched the color of her dark skin, was stuck out with her silk white gown for whatever special modeling occasion she participated in that night. She gazed at me with that warm, flirtatious smile in her piercing eyes. They were such beautiful eyes that I swore I could get lost in them. Megan was with me during my horrible roommate experiences in the past. She was one of the few who didn't think less of me when I chose bad roommates. We worked retail together, and at one point she even wanted to be my girlfriend. I was a dumbass then because I was too wrapped up about Shar, even when she was denying any relationship with me after saving her from her abusive ex-boyfriend JR. After moving away from that hellhole apartment, we lost contact. I think I got a new phone and lost her number. I really couldn't remember. Some old friends will never go away. "It is you, Tyra. Oh my God, how's it been?" "Megan, long time." We hugged, but it was those light hugs. He made sure I was tight and close to her body. I could tell from that hug that she legitimately missed me. Those moments were rare to me. Then she asked the dreaded question, "How's Shar?" Well, we broke up and she moved to Hawaii. Oh, I'm so sorry. I cut to the chase and asked, "Wait, are you single?" Yeah, why? You remember that kiss we almost had? Megan laughed. That was such a long time ago. I'm over it, Tyler. Don't you want to know what it would have been like? How about if we talk first, she asked. We could talk later. You can really make me look good right now. Who are you trying to impress? The guys. Where's the guys? I pointed out the table to my far left, but I was trying to be discreet about it. I guess nudging my head slightly to the left wasn't high on her charades. She was somewhat getting the clue, but even though she was on the verge of turning her head, she just got more flustered than anything else. Are you having a seizure or something? She asked. They're over there, I finally exclaimed. She was about to look when I held her and said, No, don't look. Just, pretend like you're enjoying my company or something. You don't give me enough time to enjoy your company. Fine, say you like local wrestling? She took a slight glance to her left at the guys and she had this wide smile and asked, What are you getting at? Chapter 8. We all cheered when T.D. Williams slammed Dickie Bronson in the ring. Megan cheered along next to me, seeming as though she was having the time of her life. Ramon sat next to her with the notion that it was his date. Cornelius was at the far end, and he was louder than all of us. Cornelius shouted, Give him the herpes suplex, STD! T.D. Williams, who we all called STD, a well-built young black man in purple spandex, walked to the apron and shouted to him, Ask your mother about the herpes. That's when the audience went, ooh, and I had to shout to the other wrestler, Sucky, sucky, Dickie! Dickie broke out of character and shouted to me, Yeah, you know all about sucky, sucky. There was some laughter. I turned to Megan and said to her, I think they're going to kick our asses. That's when I noticed a text from my brother Sam asking, You got a date yet? I took in a sigh and turned to Megan to ask. After the 4-hour event that was local wrestling, Cornelius and Ramon hung back as I walked Megan to her car. I'm not good with cars or anything. All I can tell you was that it was black, looked better than mine, and it was a 2-door. We were just wrapping up our conversation with Megan asking, So this stepbrother of yours, he's like rich or something? Yeah, John, he's like some big computer guy or something. So this party he's having, it's like some formal rich party, I take it? What? Oh no, it's a birthday party for his daughter. I doubt he'll want us to wear anything fancy or anything like that. As if. I don't know, Tyler. So what happened with you and Shar? You two seem so happy together. I thought if anyone would stay together the way you were so infatuated with her that nothing could tear you two apart. I didn't know how to tell her that I was a bum or how she didn't think I was ever going to amount to anything in life and all the other mistakes I made. For some reason, a part of me wished I had sided more with Megan than I did with Shar. Nothing against Shar, but the beautiful smile resting off her was worth 1,000 nights with her. So basically I spewed a condensed, nicer version of what really happened, which was, I suck. She laughed. Tyler, you don't suck. I'm sure you have a lot to offer. Well, I'm writing a book. In fact, I already have an agent lined up for it. Look at you, Tyler the writer. Tyler the writer? I like the sound of that. What's it about? It's called Anarchy. It's about a group of guys fed up with our government and how they screw people over so they wage war to overthrow them. That sounds interesting. Shoot, what time is it? I fumbled in my pocket for my cell phone, but it looked like Megan beat me to the punch. She checked herself, and sure enough, she had that look of distress. She said, Oh, sorry, Tyler, I have to go. It's okay. What time did you say tomorrow? 5. I'm sure I'll be out of work by then. Oh, well, give me a hug. We embraced. Of course, I wanted one other thing. I asked, Goodbye kiss? She pecked me on the chin. She asked, How's that? Then I touched my lips and said, My lips are a little chapped. Goodbye, Tyler. Unfortunately, she got in her car. As she drove off, I turned to my fellow friends who watched me the whole time. My response was, I don't kiss on the first date. Look at Tyler, exclaimed Ramon. You are the man. Yeah, said Cornelius. You should be giving Ramon some pointers. I am the man, aren't I realized. I got a hot date for this birthday party and slowly moving in on the kiss. Not yet. I'm getting there. Hey, we heard a voice yell. Coming out of the crowd of people was our dear wrestling friend Dickie Bronson. I never noticed this up close, but he had this baby face on him. He had to be in his early 20s. The bangs hanging on his face just screamed something out of the 1950s. He had on his black tank top with his face all over it. Apparently this made the girl I talked to at the bar hot and wet because he was holding her by the hand. Dickie said, "I knew I'd find you assholes after the show. Now here's my face. Talk that shit like you did when I was in the ring." "Dickie!" I exclaimed. Cornelius chimed in, "Oh, dude, we're great fans of you." "Bullshit." "We are. We just like to have fun, that's all," said Cornelius. "Oh yeah? I bet ain't fun going to the hospital, now is it?" said Dickie. Then the girl jumped in and said, "Dickie, it's not worth it. Come on." "We mean no disrespect," Cornelius said, though as hard as he tried to compose himself, we could tell he was nervous. "Talk that shit again. Go ahead. I'm right here," Dickie pressured. He looked at Ramon, who just said, "Hey, I'm not with these guys." Then Dickie looked at me. I just said, "Hey, you aren't in the ring right now." Dickie said, "You know what? Next time I hear you clowns talk shit when I'm in the ring, I know now what pussies you guys really are. Let's go, Hillary." I shouted, "It was nice talking to you, Dickie." "We'll buy your t-shirt," Cornelius added. Then Ramon said to us, "He's right. You guys are a bunch of pussies." Then I shouted like I just had an idea to the girl. I shouted, "Oh, I almost forgot. Hillary, is it?" The two of them stopped to look. Hillary responded, "Yeah." "Are we still shooting that porn together?" I asked. Then she gave a big smile and responded, "Oh, hell yeah." And the classic moment of the night was Dickie shouting, "What?" I left home early to find the new building my company graciously leased after the collapse of their last building. It wasn't easy to find. For some reason, a big brown building with nothing of our company name, ASAPs Incorporated, inscribed anywhere on the outside rendered it very difficult to spot, especially with all those encompassing trees blocking my view. Because of that, I was 10 minutes late, and when you know it, the company was going to hold me responsible for that. We always had to punch our time cards in the break room. Several of my coworkers congregated and exchanged stories about their tornado experiences. I noticed a person was waiting for the next minute on the time clock to roll over. She asked me if I needed to use the time clock, and I pretty much announced I was late. Let me tell you, as soon as your card swipes through that slot, you know that your freedom is over for 8 hours. I'd never been to prison, but I knew what it felt like. Typically my blood pressure was very high, and I blamed this place for it. Hypnotic waves of stress flowed and joined together at the pit of my stomach. Somehow, my arms bore down as if my shoulders were weights. I knew that once I opened that door to the pharmacy, my interpretation of hell will rear its ugly head. There was a warehouse that separated between the break room and the pharmacy. This would buy me at least 30 seconds to a minute of breathing time, depending on how fast I felt like walking. There was only one person there, J.R. Thomas, who was busy trying to ignore me and check on the orders from an outside warehouse. "Hi, best friend J.R., I would say to him. And his typical response would be, "Shut up." Then it was the door to the pharmacy. I took in a breath and plunged in like a brave soldier storming the beaches of Omaha. Luckily for me, it was quiet. However, like any day at the job, the first couple hours were always quiet, and then a drastic turn will take place. Debbie was finishing up at ASAP when I arrived. We delivered to nursing homes, and a lot of times they would call the pharmacy to ASAP their drugs out to them. We would fill them onto this tray with a sheet on it with numbers depicting the orders. A lot of times it would be controlled substance that we had to get from an area called the cage, where some of the most belligerent of staffs would work. Seriously, every time the wrong person goes in there, they would scream like banshees and try to rip your skin off. It's awful. Then other times they would rush out the most inane drugs like cough syrup. Some of these homes abuse the ASAP policy, and we just allow them because we like to suck dicks for business. I always imagine a representative of our company being called up on one of our homes. Nurse at the home saying, "I'm still waiting on my 7 pills of aspirin chewables. Why aren't you people over there taking it seriously? I'm terminating your business." Then I see the representative saying, "I'm so sorry. Is there any way we can make it up to you?" "Yes, you can start by coming over and kissing both cheeks of my ass. I'll be waiting with my skirt down." "Yes, ma'am. Are there any dicks you wish of me to suck? You know we specialize in that." Yeah. Our boss isn't getting head from his wife. You can suck him under the table." Debbie handed off the ASAPs to me with some not even filled because she refused to fill them once she saw me. She had pulled from the bosses for some reason, which is why I couldn't fight it. All she needed was to bitch and complain, and they were right there by her side. It happened more than once, meaning that she was a feisty black woman helped in their cause too. A lot of our upper management people were predominantly white, and when it came to taking sides between a white or black person, they always bet on black. The fear of the race card frightened them. They were paid too well to risk their jobs. That was the start of my day. I was just about to go and fill an ASAP when Casey came out with her hands on her hips. Immediately I knew what it was about. Our stupid boss had this print schedule where in specific time we would have to print all the labels to fill the drugs. As precious as ASAPs were to them, almost to the point of giving them an anxiety attack if not filled in a timely manner, I'm surprised his job was given to the ASAP guy. What time is it? She asked. Casey just turned 21 this year. She was very petite, an attractive girl with long brown hair and a very young, dimply face. In fact, one of the pharmacists who used to work there wanted her to pose for some Detroit ad he was making. I don't know what came of it. He moved to Florida. I responded, "Oh, I just got here and I just got this ASAP." She interrupted, "I don't care. See this face? This is me not caring. Print those labels." I forgot to mention she had an attitude 90% of the time. As she walked off, I shouted, "No problem, Casey. I'm right on it." She walked up to my table and told me, "I'm going to take a quick smoke." I just approved and she walked off. A lot of people complain about Tammy taking a lot of breaks. What they should be complaining about was how the big bosses just let her get away with it. Some speculate that because she reports everyone to them, changes her schedule to accommodate them whenever they lose a person, and helps with their scheduling, sometimes which she lived by. Then they were afraid to say something because she was an intricate part of how they operate. The first couple hours were great. It wasn't too busy and I was able to laugh and joke with my crew. After that second hour, though, was when the shit started pouring in. We got these ASAPs called new admits. I hate new admits. Basically, it means there is a new patient at the home and immediately need to send out at least 20 or 30 different medications for one person. I always said if I ever need that many meds, please shoot me in the head. Not only were there new admits, but there was one after another. Did everyone decide to take Grandma to nursing home today? Like, did they say to Grandma, "Hey Grandma, guess where you're going today?" "That's right, you're going to the nursing home. I know you took care of me for most of my life and I really appreciate it. It's just that, well, you're old. And I have a family now and quite frankly, you're starting to become a burden and the wife and I are tired of taking care of you. Now don't you worry, we'll come to visit you at the nursing home and you're sure as shit see us around the holidays. Maybe we can order you some pills to go in your stuffing." I dropped a tub of blisters, cooler bags, and over-the-counter medications all clumped together onto the pharmacist's table. Cornelius looked at it like he didn't want to touch it. I didn't want to fill it. It was his people who started it in the first place. I looked over at my own table and saw three trays of endless labels just waiting for me to fill. To add insult to injury, another ASAP sheet rolled off the fax machine. I didn't even want to look at it. Before I even touched them, the phone rang. We had a phone next to the computer in case any delivery driver calls or some numbnuts up front had a question they can usually figure out themselves. I answered the phone angrily and shouted, "What?" Some female voice on the other end, "Oh, hell no, you ain't talking that way to me." It was a girl I frequently took out on dates named Deshauna. She was one of our drivers. Oops. Now, I never actually slept with Deshauna. We would go out and I would treat her to a trip to a movie theater or buy her a drink. Mostly we'd chug on drinks. We did a lot of drinking. She never liked me drinking that cheap shit. Whenever I go buy a bottle of vodka for a mere $5, she would always stop me and show me the $60 alcohol bottles. My wallet said no. Unfortunately, I felt it was a special occasion anyway, so I bought it. It just gave me a splitting headache. Suddenly she just got so drunk and jumped all over me. Now don't get me wrong, she was a beautiful girl. Her body wasn't bad either. Compared to most of the women I slept with, she had a nice, firm, silky body with a curve that went down her butt so she can grind really smooth. Her butt cheeks were like soft coconut bottoms. I noticed because I saw them. She ripped off her clothes like a desperate housewife to a mailman, and her blackish brown nipples sparkled in the moonlight. It was all I It was all I had to see as I was laid flat on my bed. Then as she grinded on my software, I noticed she was getting off. I wasn't feeling it going in, but she continued to make noises like this was being filmed for porn. As she got more aggressive, bouncing her butt cheeks on my legs like a bouncing anvil, I noticed my nards were flopping like bunny ears. I started to panic. The splitting headache just overtook the situation and forced me not to pay attention on getting a hard on, but rather the immense pain throbbing in my head. I won at the moment, however. Circumstances had befallen on me. Afterwards, I could feel the disappointment in her as she was sighing. I just kept complaining about my headache, which later I found was a no-no after sex. Well, I was just being honest. Then she had to leave when originally she was going to spend the night. She made up some excuse about seeing her kid, proceeded to look and put on her clothes. I fell for the excuse and she left without a goodbye kiss. And here we are. I started to work my charm and approached her. She backed off a little when I said, "Hey, Deshauna, I was wondering when we were going drinking again." "You crazy. I'm serious. I was thinking we can meet up across the street from my place and have a few drinks, maybe more. You just want me to get in bed with you." "No, you're like my drinky buddy. Lord knows I don't have any of those. Look, last time that expensive stuff just gave me a headache, so if you let me drink that cheap shit, you aren't drinking that cheap shit. Hear me out. If you let me..." "No, I'm not letting you. Fine, we go out drinking. If you go in the bedroom this time, we won't. We won't." I had worked the charm. Just then, an older blonde woman named Lisa walked in. She came in from the sliding door that you normally need a badge to get in. Today she was wearing her red work shirt and her hair hung back behind her neck. Now she was a little chunky, but a little meat wasn't a bad thing. "Hi, Tyler," she gave off this large smile. I couldn't tell if it was fake or inviting, but she pulled it off well. "Lisa," I decided to work my charm. "Hey, are you looking hot and red today?" "This is what I wear every day when I come here." "Yeah, it suits you. It makes you look, how should I put it?" Then Tachana shouted out, He's just trying to make me jealous, and it's not working." But you're thinking I'm making you jealous, which means there is something there." Then Francisco popped in out of nowhere and said, "Hi, Tyler." Francisco was an older Mexican who had a football player body. He was bulky but meaty, with a face that always smiled, but not in a gentle way, but more of a sneaky way, like he had a joke he just couldn't say. He was an easy man to get along with, and Tyler admired his sense of humor. I said to Francisco, "Go away, Francisco." "Tyler's over here trying to make me jealous," said Deshauna. "And it's working, because me and Lisa are going on a date." I just had my arm around her with that fake proud smile on my face when Francisco said, "Oh, you met my wife? Where are you two going? Can I come?" "This is your wife?" Suddenly I felt very uncomfortable having my arm around her with her husband right there. Then his wife said, with my arm still wrapped around her, "Looks like you're in trouble now, Tyler." I let go and made haste to the door. I heard Deshauna say, "Yeah, go get my ASAPs." I swung that door open like I was king of the pharmacy. I just looked onward at the pharmacy like the cool guy that I was and marveled at everything like it was my homeland. True, it was just me playing a part for the sake of being bored, but that's why the women love me. Waiting for me at my desk were the women from the carpet. They get calls from the nursing staff of our homes, mostly to bitch and complain. They all seemed to be yelling at me at once. There was like 5 of them, and they were all around me running their mouths. I couldn't make out what they were saying. I was too busy in my happy place. The happy place where I'll be living would be my luxurious new home with an arcade room, a water park in my background, and all my friends and family members were over enjoying Ramon's grilling. Sometimes mine needed a heaven. It helped to reduce stress and complications of the heart. Of course, all good happy places get interrupted by your arch nemesis like J.R. Thompson. It plopped some labels on the table and asked me a very simple question, which was, "Why were these back ordered?" "Because we don't have any. We don't have any. There were some on the top shelf." "They must have appeared there," I said almost cryptically. "That's okay," smiled JR. "You can explain that to Patty." It was in that moment where the people around us stopped and gasped. A silence fell to the room, and JR gave off a smug and went his merry way back to the warehouse. The stares went back at me, and I only smiled and assured. I said, "Don't worry, people, relax. That mean old Patty won't be coming in." Suddenly, I spoke too soon because the doors concocted a violent smash into the wall. A giant monster of a beast reared out from the shadows. She let out a roar so thunderous it sent earlobes chiming into an obnoxious buzz. Quickly, she grabbed for the nearest running employee and bit off his head and chewed it like bubble gum. Her eyes looked dead at me. Those eyes, pungent with a mix of blood and fire, smeared out an invisible blade into her target, my forehead. I jumbled back but regained composure. She was lumbering over me with grunts of a giant purring cat. I watched in awe as she towered over me with a body so huge it dimmed the lights into a shadow. She roared so loud the skin off my face started to peel off. Actually, she was a normal woman, but my perception of her was just that. She was just burly blonde woman with a frown struggling to be upside down. All she did was complain why we're taking back orders, and I tuned out most of what she was yelling about because most people were used to her bitching. Patty Marie Smith was in charge of purchasing. Not many people could see it, but she had a softer side to her. Sometimes we would laugh and joke with each other, and other times we would jump down each other's throats. Half of the time we never knew what mood she was in. She loved to talk about other people. If anyone was the queen of gossiping, it was her. However, most employees were scared to see her in her office. You just never knew if it would set her off. I often look at her office like the cauldron of death. I could see the flames from the creases under the floor. Inside her office, I could see her brewing a large pot with a broom and a shrieking laughter that could scare children. She said, "You have to look. We can't keep backordering. You have to look. I'm tired of this. I'm so sorry. It will never happen again." She could sense my caustic tone. Things were saved when I saw John walking toward me, and I kept hoping it wasn't about something I did wrong. Turned out, he had 5 men in suits walking behind him with countenance so emotionless I could feel the expensive ego oozing out of them. They were middle-aged men, with the one in center having crystal white hair. He was the only one whose suit was gray, while the other 4 men styled with black. Their feet sounded like cattle as they walked, and the rhythm of their walk sang in unison. They were approaching me, but stopped behind John as if he was the mediator. All eyes directed at me, and I stood there behind that desk like a slunk child. John spoke first, trying his best to avoid questions, and said to the group, "This over here is the dash. This is where all the ASAPs come in." After getting over the shock, I realized I needed to be working, so I started punching buttons on the keyboard to my computer. I accessed anything just to give the illusion that I was working. From the corner of my eye, I caught a mustache man furrowing his chin. I knew I shouldn't have, but I raised my eye at him like a guilty man trying not to look. Then the gray man asked, "Why does he have an ASAP right now?" "I caught up with them," I blurted out, trying my best not to look intimidated. Then I backed up with, "I got them all out. I'm just waiting on the next one so I can, get that out too." Then John introduced, "Tyler, these are the representatives from the CEO. They are here to look around and see how the job is functioning." "Really? Great. I finally get to meet you guys. Listen, I hope this walkthrough you're having turns out well, and hopefully things will improve from here." "Improve?" asked the mustache man. "So you're saying we need improvements?" Then suddenly 3 of the men got comfortable at the other end of the table. The short, fatter CEO asked, "We obviously came to the right man. What kind of improvements?" "Well, for starters, we may need more people. Oftentimes the Ohio facility dumps their labels at us when they can't handle it or their robot breaks down, so it would be nice to be prepared for situations like those." Just during my speech, I did hear the fax machine roll off an ASAP sheet behind me. I was too in the moment and a little nervous to grab that sheet. A thought came over me that as soon as I touched that paper, those eyes would be staring right at me the whole time. The short guy then said, "That is very interesting. We will have to look into that." The mustache man interrupted, and he had a smirk on his face as he asked, "You going to get that ASAP paper?" His tone wasn't friendly. It was more of a test. "Oh, yeah, sorry. I was so busy talking." My soul dropped when I touched that paper. The ASAP papers were ASAP papers already rolled in upside down, so it was a surprise if the ASAP was just one item or the dreaded 30. My dumb luck was that it was the latter. Everything felt in slow motion when I saw the new admit ASAP in front of my face. Then it got worse. John was about to direct them to another area when the mustache man said, "No, wait. I want to see this. I want to see how the ASAP process works in its entirety. You seem to know a lot about this place. Show me how you get an ASAP." I was lost like a deer caught in the headlights. Just as I feared, the 5 men darted eyes at me like I was about to take a field test. I edged over to the computer to try not to waste valuable time. My fickle fingers had to adjust the paper accordingly on the table. I logged into the ASAP file and saw that the numbers for the order was there. I had to page down to at least 3 screens to see how much was displayed. The labels rolled out like noisy toilet paper when I printed them, and to my dismay, a lot of them were partial fills. The partial fills were always the worst part of the new admit. Normally we had 30 packs situated by racks on the floor, and it was easy to just pick them up and label them. However, with the partial fills, I would have to reconfigure and hot press every single one, ranging from 7 pills to 14. That was time consuming. The mustache man boldly asked, "You need help?" "I got this." He got this. This is a very fast man on the ASAPs. Then I heard their smug laughs. There weren't enough people on the floor to help, and I doubted either of these jokers would lift a label. I had to think logically in the situation, otherwise we would never get any additional help. With the labels crumbled in a tote, I left my post to go fill it on the floor. The 5 men marched behind me with their hands folded behind their backs. I could hear their leather boot heels. I could hear the leather boot heels snapping the tile floor. I set the tote down and began looking in the alphabetized bins for each corresponding drug. After I found the drug in small blistered pockets, I took one of the blister packs, which were like cards with fitted holes in them, and I reconfigured the drug into the 7 pills indicated on my label. The mustache man asked, "Why are you getting those drugs individually? Why not all at once?" I answered, "This is how I get the ASAP." "Okay, please continue." I didn't know what that meant, but the next endeavor was the hot press. That was where I would take a bottle and fit each pill into what they called a bubble. It had rolls of bubbled film on it that fit neatly into a blister pack. I was just running a hot press when I noticed Debbie sorting out the labels of my tote. She must have sensed I was taking too long and decided to help me into not looking like a disgrace in front of these pompous bastards. But the mustache man said, "Don't help him." I countered with, "Sometimes my employees help me if my ASAP's too big." "You're doing just fine. Keep going." A sweat beaded from my forehead as I watched the machine we call the REM Star roll down racks of bins for all the over-the-counter drugs. I selected a row number on the circuit board, and the machine just kept rolling down with the sounds of metallic bumps and whirs. The mustache man asked, "Why is this taking so long?" I responded rather shakily, "I know it sometimes takes too long." I think he heard the crack in my voice. "It's okay," he said. "Just relax." "I'm relaxed. I've done this 1,000 times." "Really?" I couldn't tell. Finally, we got to the fridge. It's this little area where a row of refrigerators house insulin and pens. I happened to be fitting a vial with a small label flagged onto it into a small box. It was a little disconcerting, and I had to shove in the vial in order for my nervous fingers to close it. I don't think they liked that. By the time we got back to my table, I brought out my pen from my necklace to check off the list of drugs. I thought this would be the end of it when the mustache man pulled out some ASAP sheets from under the fax machine. He asked in a placid tone, "What is this? Why are these sitting here?" He slapped it on the table and asked, "How long were these sitting here?" All I could come up with was, "I don't know." "You don't know. How long did that ASAP take? 20 minutes? The gray man responded, "More like 13 minutes. 13 minutes! So in all that time, within 13 minutes, it took you to get that ASAP, these papers were just sitting here. Unacceptable. I can get to them really quick. It's not about how you get to them really quick, it's about how long they've been sitting there." He looked over at John and said, "What I just discovered here, I'm not impressed. I want him properly trained, and I want him on this dash every day. Is that understood?" John nodded and responded, "Yes, sir." "I will be back. I don't know. When do you say we'll be back?" The shorter man replied with, "We got that meeting in Kentucky. We have that fundraiser with Labaskin." "Right. We're coming back. I can't say when. I'll give it a couple months. If I witness what I've just seen here tonight, I'm going to be cleaning house. That desk of yours, John, is going to be squeaky clean when I get through with it. See to it that your employee, if he's still working here, learns the proper way in handling an ASAP. I took a couple steps before he turned to me and asked, I'm sorry, what's your name? I had my tongue tied. The shorter man said to him, his badge says Tyler Moore. 5 men walked past my side of John. He was just staring me down like a disappointed father. No words were spoken, and he followed with the suits while I stood behind that table like a defeated loser. Casey walked up and slammed the ASAP down and said, here's your ASAP, faggot. Then Tammy walked up to me and said, I'm going to take a quick break. I wanted to comment on her breaks, but I was too stricken with nerves to let out anything cohesive. I heard my cell phone beep, and I immediately grabbed for it to stop the noise. It was Megan texting me, asking if I was still going. I looked at the ASAP sheets in front of me and up at the clock, and I knew I wasn't going to get out of there on time. I responded back with, I'm going to be a little late. Then Debbie came up to me and said with concern, what those guys did to you was wrong, Tyler. You should report this. I answered, it's okay. I'll get them back. I knew it was against the law and everything, but I had to make a quick call to Gina while driving. Gina was my movie date, but we were never actually dating. It was always good to walk in a theater with a hot girl. I caught a couple of the ushers staring and probably wondering why a bum like me was out with such a hottie like her. She was shorter than me with thick dark hair. The best part of her was her worn smile. I get to see that just before we hugged. She felt good around the arms, and I loved the touch of the curves around her waist. That was as far as I got. You know where Morton Taylor is? She asked. Yeah, I know that road. Take that and a couple streets down and you should come across a light. Take a left and you should be right on the street. Tyler, you really should get a GPS. Thanks, Gina. And oh, are we still on for Halloween night? Yeah, sure. I don't have any plans. Cool, can't wait. I'll see you then. I banked the left at the light as she instructed, and suddenly I was warped into a street of the biggest and most beautiful houses my eyes had ever witnessed. The way the trees were lined reminded me of knights drawing up their sword for the magistracy. It was truly majestic. I found Matt's house rather easily, as Megan was already waiting for me at the foot of his driveway. I parked to the other side of the street, and I didn't even shut my engine off before Megan started making comments. She said, "What took you so long? Did you leave work that late?" I didn't want Megan to know I got lost, so I replied, "I got held up in traffic. I didn't have time to go home and change." I got out and revealed my scrubs. Megan, on the other hand, looked smoking. She had on this silky black and white blouse that looked sexy enough, but she even went the extra mile to doll up her face with kissing lipstick. Her hair was perfectly braided, and a strand of it overshadowed her eye and made her look almost seductive. "Megan, you look," I chose the word carefully, "divine." "Divine?" she laughed. "Who says divine these days?" And then she mocked, "You?" Okay, you look sexy. There, I said it. You look so hot tonight that I'm having unusual tingly sensations on the lower part of my body. Okay, Tyler, you don't have to mention the lower part of your body. What? I can't even mention my gonads? Actually, I am a little curious. I looked down and replied, "So am I." She laughed. "Let's get in the house." She took me by the arm and we made steps to the front porch. I smiled and took the liberties to knock on the door. Almost immediately, a 40-something-year-old woman swung open the door. She had little bags under her eyes, but the hotness was still there. I can imagine she was probably a runner-up with the cover of women's magazines once, but the year probably passed her by. She was an attractive woman, by all means. She had this bubbly personality that tried so hard to win over her guests. She exclaimed, "You must be Tyler." "Hi. I'm Jenna, John's wife." "I'm sorry," she went to Megan. "What's your name?" "I'm Megan." "Megan, oh my god, you look so beautiful." "Thank you." "Tyler, is this your girlfriend?" "She can be." I got Megan just smile on that one. Then Jenna said, "Come inside. Welcome to the Rivera family." She invited us on the marble floor of their home. I took a quick peek left and I noticed a piano and some chimes in another room. Megan was busy looking upward at the mystique view of the winding stairs and the chiming chandelier. Jenna was too busy walking the hallway in front of us with various paintings manted on the wall. Jenna said to us, "Follow me, the party's this way." We both looked at each other. We knew we had the same communication. The two of us heard slight ambulance of an orchestra in the next room. At first I thought this was on some CD player with the speakers cranked right up. To my surprise, we turned the next room where there was an actual orchestra playing. From the looks of things, everyone at the party dressed up. Men wore in tuxedos that looked like money, and the women tried on their best Renaissance dresses, the ones that blossom on the floor. Then the orchestra squeaked and halted playing. The party in this room stopped their chatter and locked eyes directly at me. Everyone noticed my scrubs. I could tell Megan was embarrassed as she looked away, as if she found herself out of a coma and was locked arms with this guy. At that moment, I realized I should have called this one in sick. I thought I would break the silence and announce, "Hi everyone, I'm the guy who just showed up at this party. Next to me is a girl who doesn't know me." Megan nodded and agreed with that one. Then John stepped out of the crowd and asked, "Tyler, what the hell is this? I thought someone told you this was a formal party, not a 9 to 5. You can't wear that ridiculous work outfit you got on." John Rivera, better known as my rich stepbrother. He was a man who used to be a nice guy until he became filthy rich at being a computer expert and working for the top clients in the country. John came from a house of a conniving mother. She would yell up the stairs and say, "John, get your fucking ass down here, you motherfucker, you." Then he would shout, "Coming, Ma." He would instantly jump out of the uncomfortable cot he slept in and march down with the same clothes he slept with. Waiting for him down the stairs was the angry, disappointed face of his mother. She would say to him, "Look at you," with that frizzled hair and ragged clothes and those ridiculous-looking glasses. "If you think you can live here until you're 80 years old, you got another thing coming, you motherfucker, you." "Yes, Ma." He sat at the breakfast table with my dad. My dad just looked at him with a disgust as John devoured a bowl of cereal. Maybe it was how each lick of the spoon required a slurp at each tape. That was probably part of it, but his real beef was John's lifestyle. Then John stopped to look up at his dad. My dad just said in disgust, "You disgust me." Then he said words I wish he'd never said. He said to him, "Why can't you be more like my son, Tyler? He's an honor student and he has ambitions." "You have ambitions, John?" "I want to get into computers," he said as he took a drink of his milk. "You want to get into computers? Have you done anything productive to get into computers?" "I'm reading books." "I don't see you reading," my dad said. Sure enough, he was. Late at night with his flashlight, he was hitting the books and hoping he didn't wake up his bitchy mother. Then one day, in secret, he forked over the $300 to take the test. It was all done by computer and in closed cubicles. Each station equipped headphones and a series of tests under a strict time limit. After the test, he would have to wait in line so the next available representative could tell him his score. He passed, and he celebrated with a few beers at a bar walking distance from his house. Then here he was in a black pinstripe suit. His necktie looked as if it was washed in dotted rainbow colors. His black hair was slicked back with hardened gel. There was no need for his glasses anymore. He took care of that with laser surgery. I replied to him, "I didn't know. I thought it was just a birthday party." He then said to me, "Just a birthday party? I think I have one of my old suits upstairs. It should fit you of your size. Can someone take him to my room and help him with my suit?" My dad walked up like he was a master servant. He replied, "I'll take him up there." "Good. See to it he's nicely dressed. After all, he might need some help." I gave him that look. After being humiliated at work, I certainly didn't need this from him at his daughter's birthday party. I just walked away and followed my dad up the winding stairs. My dad did the honors of tying my tie. From the looks of the mirror, I was being fitted into a funeral suit. It was a very cheap suit compared to what everyone else was wearing at the party. This was probably one of John's suits when he was living with his mother. I finally said to my dad, "I seriously didn't know it was a formal party." "I thought I told you," he said. "It doesn't matter now. What's done is done. The important thing is you're here and you're on your best behavior. John's wife wants to merge our families together." It took them 20-something years to finally make that effort. For years, my brothers and I heard about the holidays they spent together, the family vacations, and visits to the relatives of our family. My dad used to show off photos to us on their Caribbean vacations like we needed to be jealous or something. I don't remember much of those photos. I was around my teens then. However, there was one photo I remembered of John and my dad riding a jet ski. To this day, I don't know why that photo stuck out the most. Then my dad changed the subject and asked, "Who's that girl you came with?" "That's Megan. She's an old friend of mine. We ran into each other at the bar the other day." I'm going to tell you something from your old man that I never thought I would ever be saying to my son. I've been married to my wife for over 15 years. I can honestly say that she made me a very happy man. Sometimes I pity those who don't experience true love from your best friend. I call my wife my best friend. I just hope that someday before I go to my grave, I die knowing that my son's finally found that person that makes him happy as much as my wife made me. Someone who makes you feel like the person you always wanted to be. I wish that upon you, son. Even though I wanted to tell my dad what a hopeless cause that was, and that the hopes of me finding the right woman was slim to none, I only replied with, "Thanks, Dad." There was too much emotion from my dad to ruin the moment. He smiled and slapped me on the back and said, "Let's go join the party." "We really have to?" "Come on now, his wife makes a lovely cheesecake." Chapter 11. I was the worst dressed at the party, but that was because my suit looked so plain and ordinary. Megan didn't seem to mind, since she immediately sprang from her seat to give me a hug. She said to me, "Look at you, you look so divine." I laughed and said, "You look divine yourself." That's when I looked up. Coming in from the same hallway we made entrance to came two people I didn't want to see for the rest of my life. It was my ex-girlfriend Cheryl and her fiancé Tyrone. There are many reasons why I broke up with Cheryl. Besides her stinky breath or those chipped black teeth, she was also a hypochondriac. There hadn't been a day where she didn't complain about her medical problems. Each day with a roulette wheel of which kind of pain she was feeling, back or knee. I'd drive her rear-ender her 3 years ago, and she still kept bitching about her back. We thought Tyrone stuck around until the settlement money wore out. Then again, rumors surfaced that when a settlement was made to them, they turned it down for more money. They were put under an investigation. It wouldn't look good on Tyrone, though. Neighbors told us that some days they heard him hitting her. The brothers and I would listen by their doorway, and all we heard was arguing that stopped. Whenever I see Cheryl, I always look to see what brace was on. It changed every visit. One day she would wear a knee brace, and the very next day she wore a hand cast. When we asked why she was wearing that, she would feed us lines like she discovered she had carpal tunnel. She must have forgotten about her knee brace. Today she wore on her lovely knee brace that looked cleaner than all the other knee braces. This one must be new. She was a short little blonde, I would call her. Standing proud next to her was Tyrone in a black tuxedo I'm sure Cheryl bought for him. He had the devilish grin on his face like he was proud of his date that evening. He was all tall, sprightly, and an obvious well-build considering he was flexing his other arm for some reason. Unfortunately, they were coming my way. I was joined by my two brothers who looked guilty of expecting them. Right away, I knew who the culprits were. I just asked them, "Why did you invite my ex?" Sam responded, "She's part of the family." "No, she's not. She's my ex. We don't get along, and my fucked up family keeps inviting her to family functions. I'm not married to the girl, and you sure as fuck aren't. So why did you decide to invite my slut of an ex-girlfriend?" Then Cheryl and Tyrone came in closer from the noise. Cheryl said, "Hi, Tara." "Oh, hi, Sam and Manny." Sam and Manny smiled and waved. Then Tyrone had to ask the question I always wanted to ask. He asked, "Why do you keep going to these family functions?" "They're like my family." "You slept with all three of those homeboys. This is like some Jerry Springer shit here. How is a nigga supposed to keep dating this girl when she keeps going to her fuck-for-all brother's family functions? Nigga, please." "Cheryl," I exclaimed. "Tyrone." "What's up, Tyler? What's up?" said Tyrone. "Oh my god, Cheryl, what happened to your knee this time?" She then brought attention to her knee and said, "Oh, it's the same stupid accident again. I swear this pain will never go away. But that was like 3 years ago. I thought it was your back." Sam stepped in and said, "Hey, why don't we all sit down?" As we seated in the round table, and it was literally a round table, John continuously tapped on his goblet with his crystal spoon. Everyone seated had their very own goblet. I sat across from Cheryl and Tyrone, with Megan sitting very close to my left. I could feel the heat leaking sweat into our legs. Tyrone asked, "Tyler, who's that girl sitting next to you?" "That's my friend Megan." "Just a friend? Yeah, I thought so. Hey girl, let's say I got your number and we can hang out sometime." Megan said, offended, "You're asking me for my phone number?" "Just go out as friends. My baby understands. We can go to Savannah Cafe. Let's say we go there, kick it a bit, and have fun." Oh my god, Megan just had that smiley off expression as she retorted with, "You're such a pig. I can't believe you're asking me out in front of your girlfriend." "Fiance," I corrected. "Even worse. He's not asking you out," Cheryl said, emotionlessly. Then Megan pointed and said, "You're fucked up." "Ladies and gentlemen," announced John, "it is my dubious honor that we are here to celebrate my daughter's 6th birthday." The audience clapped like we're in an ending of a play. John tipped his head, smiled, and waved his goblet to the crowd. He then proposed another announcement, which was, "Tonight, we celebrate the merging of 2 families. The Moore family." He paused for applause, but was silent as a cough. He then added, "My step-family," and this got the applause he was looking for. His daughter, a homely-looking blonde girl, wearing a pink miniskirt with a buttoned-up blouse, tugged on her dad's expensive coat and asked, "Daddy, Daddy, when are we going to open my presents?" "Oh, honey, you'll open that pony soon enough." Everyone in the audience, except our group, laughed at that comment. I looked over at my brothers, who just passed a smirk over to me. Megan leaned at my ear and whispered loudly, "Tyrone keeps making a pass at me." I looked at Tyrone, who smooched a passionate kiss. John sat down with his daughter seated on his lap. He told the group at his table, You know what my daughter wants to be when she grows up? Tell them, April." "I want to be a singer." "You hear that? She wants to be a singer. Sing me that song you sang me the other day." April just nodded and looked nervous. "You know, that song. Remember that song you sang when you and Daddy were watching the football game? What was the name of that song?" "The Star Song." "The Star Song. Show everyone how you sing the Star Song." "Oh, say, can you see by the twilight can't be near." Then she stopped from all the nerves and hugged on her dad. John shouted, "Give it up for her, everybody." Everyone cheered. "Wasn't she beautiful?" he shouted. "That's my little girl. She's going to have a contract someday. Mark my words." The group huddled over her and they went into quiet chatter. My brothers turned to me and Manny asked, "Hey Tyler, did you get that Obamacare yet?" "No, I just stuck with my work insurance." "Telling you, man," said Manny. "Don't get it. I'm telling you." Tyrone interrupted and asked, "Yo, man, what's wrong with Obamacare?" "Why?" asked Manny. "You like to be here all night?" "I just don't like it when you mess with my boy Obama." "Oh, really? Did you say that with Bush? Did you say that with Clinton?" "No. So unless you play basketball with him, he's the President of the United States. Color isn't an issue. I have my God-given right as an American citizen to say whatever I want about the President of the United States. End of story." "I'm telling you, man, that's racist." "How is that racist? Explain to me how that's racist. I would really like to hear this." "White man talking shit about the black man. The white man talking shit about the black man just makes my skin boil, alright? Are you getting what I'm saying?" "Yeah, I'm getting what you're saying." "No, I'm not getting what you're saying. So if the president was white and making these dumbass decisions, it's okay. But if you slap a coat of black on him, it's automatically racist